Recording in progress.
All right. I would like to welcome everyone tonight to the Baltimore County Fire Department Emergency Medical Service Academy Training Series. Tonight's topic is When Violence Erupts, a survival guide for the emergency responder. Our presenter this evening is Dennis Krebs, who is a retired paramedic and captain from the Baltimore County Fire Department. He still volunteers with the Baltimore County Volunteer Firemen's Association at Station 32. He is a tactical medic for the Department of Homeland Security and the Johns Hopkins Center for Law Enforcement. Captain Krebs retired after 30 years of service. He's worked as a tactical medic supporting various law enforcement and special operation teams. He is the author of several books to include When Violence Erupts, a survival guide for emergency medical responders, and Medic Up, where criminal SWAT teams and medicine intersect. He's the author of numerous articles on violence towards fire and EMS. He has numerous published articles within the various journals for fire, rescue, and EMS. I think this is an incredibly important topic. Scene safety is paramount. And without further ado, I present to you Dennis Krebs. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you. And welcome all. We're struggling with a couple of technical issues. Apologies for that, but the content will be the same. The program that you're about to see, generally I've taught in an 8-hour format. We're going to scrunch a lot of things into about a little over an hour. So without further ado, we'll talk about some of the violence that you all face. And maybe some of you haven't had to face that yet. And we'll talk about some numbers, some things that maybe you've never seen or heard about. So I'm sure a lot of you had heard about the incident in Kansas City on the 27th of April this year, where a Missouri firefighter paramedic was stabbed in the back of the medic unit. And then just a couple of days ago, I happened to find an incident in Washington, D.C. on the 8th of this month, where a medic in the back of another ambulance was being beaten. And it took the police 15 minutes to get there after he started screaming 1033, which is their code for the medic unit needs help, similar to what we have for Signal 13. So these things, as you can see, a couple of things that have happened. And in the larger program that I do, I spend about the first few minutes just going through slide after slide of incidents that have occurred over the years. And we don't have the time to go through all of them, but here's just a couple. Memphis, Tennessee, 2 firefighters and 1 sheriff's deputy shot to death. This was a couple of years ago. A little bit further back, a gentleman set his house on fire and ambushed the first responding units in Webster, New York. 2 firefighters were shot and killed and 2 wounded. So these things have occurred recently. They continue to occur. And this isn't something that's just started within the past couple of years. When I started in the fire service back in 1974 in Baltimore City, walked into my first sign station, there was a bullet hole in the front of the apparatus. So things were happening even at that point in life. I got into the county, and how this whole program started was in 1982 when myself and Richard Brooks, if any of you know Richard, him and I were assigned to Medic 1 in Towson for the day, and at about 7 o'clock in the morning get assigned for a man slumped over the steering wheel at Kenilworth Avenue and Charles Street. And 7 o'clock in the morning, we pull up, not knowing any better, walk up to a car, and the gentleman, in fact, was slumped over the steering wheel. And when I got to the side of the car, he came to. He was drunk. You could smell the odor of alcohol coming out of the window. And he came up towards my face with a .357 Magnum. And luckily, there was a trooper coming up the other side, struggle for the gun, and it all happened so fast that I didn't even realize what had gone on. Close friend of mine in the state police, we got to talking, and I went through the same training that he had been through in the way of survival skills. Went through some national street survival programs put on by Caliber Press, and we sat down and put together a program that was 8 hours in length, talking about the different things that we could do to keep ourselves safe, whether it be walking up to a car, handling domestics, any of those things. And we put that together, and I was lecturing around the country for decades. Put it in the form of a book that you saw the cover of there, and have been actively involved in doing some of these things ever since then. So the objective for tonight, and the objective that I keep very, very simple for these programs, is that you go home at the end of your shift. Whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a career, you go home at the end of your shift upright with 10 fingers and 10 toes. Right? So I keep it very, very simple with some of the things that I expect you to be able to achieve. One of the biggest takeaways in this program is you all being aware of what's going on around you. And I don't care if you're at work or you are in your personal life, being aware of what is going on around you. If you're walking down the street, let's say you go into Hamden or any of the other places, Fells Point, wherever, you go in Saturday night for a dinner, being aware of people walking up behind you, being aware when you're in a house on a call of hearing footsteps coming up the stairs behind you, listening to those things, understanding that all of these are threats. I've had nurses, one of the contracts after I've left the fire service and some of the other things, I work contract work for various folks. One of the contracts I was teaching a similar program for all of MedStar Health, and I was at Franklin Square Hospital. And a couple of the nurses noted to me that they had been followed as they left Franklin Square at the end of their shift. And they were aware of their surroundings and knew what was going on, to be aware of someone being behind them and following them. Would you all be aware of that happening, whether it be leaving the station? And I'm sure a lot of you roll your eyes that, oh, is somebody going to follow me home? Right. Well, who thought that a nurse would, leaving a hospital, would have somebody and a family member of an angry patient follow them, of having that type of ability to sit behind them? Thankfully, most people aren't trained in how to actually do surveillance on somebody, and they're going to bumper lock you. And 2 to 3 turns, if you have that awareness with you, you're going to see that somebody's back there. Somebody that's been trained, if I'm sitting back there, I'm not sitting directly behind you. I'm sitting in another lane of traffic with 2 cars for cover. If you go into a shopping center, I'm not going in right behind you. I'm going into another entrance and I'm tracking you down. Where's the one place that you don't want to go if you have the feeling that someone's behind you? Think about it for a second. You don't want to go home. Go someplace else, another firehouse, police station. You do not want to go home and let that person know where you live. Okay? So we'll start off with that. So along with the awareness, keeping your head on a swivel, watching what is going on around you. And I'm going to change the slide because the owl's getting on my nerves. One of the contracts that I was working for the day I was in DC, we get done what we were doing. I'm down in Chinatown Metro stop and waiting on the train to pull up. And at the back of the platform, if you've ever been in Metro DC, on the Metro, there's a short waist height wall at the back of the platform. Generally, that's where I stand. Nowadays, I'm certainly not going to stand all the way up at the edge. Too many people wind up underneath of the train. So I'm standing back there, and as is my norm, my head just slowly, casually moving from left to right. And I had noted that there was somebody sitting on one of the benches over to my right at one point, and I had a backpack thrown over my right shoulder. Well, as my head came from the left and moves back to the right, this person now has their arm outstretched right near my shoulder, And as he walks by, when I turn my head, his hands go through his hair, and he continues walking on. What was he going for? He was going for the backpack. I was about to be robbed. And if it wouldn't have had the self-consciousness to keep my head out of my keister, it would have been battle on. But it's that awareness, not only when you're at work, but when you're in your personal life as well. This slide, there are no guarantees in any of this. You can do everything right and still wind up getting hurt. There was a gentleman by the name of Jason Schneider, and I had worked with him. I used to do some of the training for the county SWAT team, Baltimore County SWAT team. And Jason was in one of the SWAT schools that I taught. And Jason one morning was with the rest of the team doing a raid down in Catonsville, and they went through the door, and somebody came out behind him and capped off a round that went up underneath his body armor and killed him. He was doing everything right. He had all of his equipment on, but there's no guarantees in any of this. You can do things right all the time, and you can still get hurt or killed, as with most things within the fire and rescue service. So some studies that were done. In almost 10% of patient encounters, this study showed that some sort of violence occurred in the pre-hospital setting. Almost 10% of patient encounters. And think to yourself, any time that you've had where something has been close or you've actually had to deal with violent patients. This was astounding to me. If you stay in this business long enough, you will be assaulted. All right? You've got an almost 100% chance of being assaulted. And 24%, almost a quarter of the agencies reported having personnel shot. Those numbers are astounding. Myself, I was within Baltimore County, I was assaulted twice. The one I told you about, and another one down at St. Joseph's Hospital. And the thing is, neither one of them got any jail time for the assaults on me. Neither one of them. So, just be aware that things can happen to you, and it's almost as if the judicial system is, well, you need to expect that these problems are going to occur. So we need to deal with that and be safe. Prior to everybody coming on, Doc and I were in a conversation, and one of our mentors, Don Mackey, who taught our initial EMT class, he was a city firefighter EMT and also the captain of our Budas Volunteer Fire Company. And he taught early on about when you roll your hand up into a fist and knock on the door of things that can happen. And we're going to talk about some of those things. And when you do knock on that door, one of the big things is you don't stand in front of the door. There's all kinds of things that come through doors. Don't stand in front of them. If there's a takeaway, that's another big one for me. Don't stand in front of doors. So this incident, the guy in the middle that has hair right below the dude with the gas mask is me when I had hair. I was working part-time as paramedic for Howard County, working out at Elkridge Station 1 for the day. And the nighttime crew had been dispatched to a mobile home park off of Washington Boulevard. They got there, knocked on the door, and an arrow was shot through the door at them. The door was not open. The arrow came through the door. Luckily, they weren't standing in front of the door. They were standing to the side, and the arrow came through the door. What you see here, a barricade situation ensued throughout the night. We came on duty in the morning, and they had tried to complete negotiations and wound up that the SWAT team was going to do an entry. They came to us on the medic unit and said, all right, we're going to go through the door. Once we get through the door, you guys come on in and go ahead and take care of him for any injuries or anything. One problem, they were going to tear gas the place, and they didn't have gas masks for us. And this was prior to having SCBA on the medic unit. So I asked them politely, since they carry guns, would you possibly be able to, bring him outside for us, outside of the toxic environment? Oh, sure. Well, they grabbed him by the ankles, drug him down the stairs, and what you see here is now the guy's awake. And he's becoming combative as we're trying to do an assessment on him. God love him. The officer behind me is trying to help, except that the loaded AR-15 at the back of my head gave me a pucker factor of about 15. So all kinds of things come through doors. We don't stand in front of doors. But which side of the door do you stand to? Or does it make a whole hill of beans? All right, you stand to the doorknob side of the interior door. Doorknob side of the interior door. That way they have to look out and around the door jamb in order to see you. There is what's known as a fatal funnel on any door, whether it be that outside door entry into a house or any interior bedroom door or anything else. When you stand to the doorknob side of the door, you're in that fatal funnel. And as soon as that person cracks that door, that's what they see. It doesn't take much to stick the muzzle of a gun through, and you don't get to see very much of them. So you don't stand to the doorknob or to the hinge side of the door, okay? Doorknob side of the door. How many of you have gone on a call and pulled up at the address, what you thought was the address? The door's open, the porch light's on, whatever the case might be. How many of you have gone up the front stairs and would walk through that door? Fire department, paramedic, we're here. Is that a wise idea? I would say no. You very well could be at the wrong address. How many times have you been called to an address and it's a family member that accidentally gave their address and not the address of the actual patient? You didn't see the house number correctly. Maybe there aren't any house numbers, even there's supposed to be. Maybe there aren't any house numbers. And you just walk into someone's house unannounced. That could be tragic. And how many people have guns in their homes? So now they have a stranger coming through the door. What do you think could happen? That person sitting on the couch that has a handgun stuffed down between the cushions for their protection, that comes out and they don't ask questions. They start shooting. So we don't go into open doors. You stand to the doorknob side, knock on the door, wait for somebody to come, knock and announce yourself. Fire department, paramedic, did you call? Wait for them to come to the door and guide you in. When they guide you in, you want them in front of you because you're using them as a shield. If something's going to happen, it's going to happen to them first. And I've been on calls where a family member has called because their husband was sick and didn't tell him. And we come up the stairs and this guy comes rolling across the bed with a 38 in his hand. And we nearly bought the farm. So family member in front of you. I don't have up the chat, but maybe some of you can look at this room and tell me, or just write down some of the things in this room that can do you harm. And I'll give it a couple of seconds and then I'll start rattling things off. Right? Because there's a multitude of things here that can wind up causing you problems. And we go into these homes and don't think about these things. And there's plenty of things here. The one obvious is the pair of scissors sitting on the coffee table. Right? The Jack Daniels bottle sitting on the floor. You've got a plate over there that has a steak knife, right? Knives are bad. The fork also, if you've seen somebody that has been stabbed with a fork, it is a very nasty wound. There's a marble colored vase sitting there in the middle of the table. In the back corner, golf clubs. There's an iron. If you have someone large enough, the ashtray, but someone large enough can take the glass top of that table and smash it over your head. So there's any number of things here that can cause you harm. And maybe it's you want to try to mitigate as much of that as possible. All right. If your patient is sitting there on that couch, maybe grab the coffee table, slide it out of the way, out of their reach. Maybe sit your bag on top of the pair of scissors that's sitting on the table. Any number of things. You never want to take something like a steak knife and put it in your bag. Well, it'll be secure because it's in my bag. Nope. You don't want to put it in your bag. Obviously, that's can be misconstrued as stealing and not doing something for your safety. But it goes back to awareness. Watching the things that are going on around you. Don't necessarily totally focus on the patient. Yes, that's why you're there, is that patient. But again, you want to go home at the end of your shift. 10 fingers, 10 toes, totally upright. One of the other things, and this is so big, is the way we act, the way we talk, and what other people are doing as well. All right? The things that we say, the things that we do can make or break situations. And I've been on enough calls and listening to folks that have really talked themselves into problems by the way they act, the way they talk, and not just fire and EMS, law enforcement, other folks. I was dealing with some issues with a notable bank. I'll leave it at that. I was going to say the name of the bank, but a notable bank, notable throughout the country. And I was taking care of my mother's estate and had to take care of her bank accounts. Went into a local branch in Baltimore County and sat down with one of the managers, and everything was friend. Well, friend, XYZ. Well, friend, XYZ. And it was extremely annoying. And that was a crutch for him, using the term friend or partner. Any of those colloquialisms can be difficult and can get you into trouble. And finally, when I had had enough, knew that I wasn't going to be able to take care of what I needed to, I got up and, well, I'm sorry to see you leave, friend. And I spun around and looked at him square in the eyes and said, I am not your friend, and walked out the door. And he had trying to manage myself, was doing a good job, and he finally broke me. Right? So your language, the things that you do, your posture are all big outcomes. And you can see by some of the faces here, those are things that you should be worried about. Now let's talk about the guy with his arms crossed. So there's two thoughts of that. And I was doing a program with Special Forces soldiers being deployed to Afghanistan. And in this scenario that we were in, I was sitting there with my arms crossed, and the instructor come in and stopped what we were doing and took me outside and said, what's the matter? I don't know what you're talking about. Well, having your arms crossed is a sign that you've shut off communication. No, this is just my comfort zone. And there are those of us, I do classes all the time, and I can easily find at least 2 to 3 people in the room that's their comfort, is to sit in the room and just casually sit back with their arms crossed. It's almost like they're hugging themselves, and that's their norm. So you've got to take the arms crossed with some of the other things, language, stance, if they're standing, eye contact, things along those lines in the way of posture. Two phrases or words that annoy the daylights out of me that you hear both law enforcement and our folks use. Calm down. Relax.
People hate those words.
I say relax, not calm down. Then he says,
But the thing is, right? You're telling me to relax. You're coming at me with a needle that looks like a ballpoint pen, and you're telling me to relax. That's not happening. So try not to use those words. Figure something else out. And there's many things, but don't use those. There's an excellent book that's been out since 1990s called Verbal Judo. The gentleman that wrote it was an English professor, taught for many years, and then decided to ditch the university thing and became a cop. And he wrote about how to talk to people. And it's an excellent, excellent book. And I was preparing for this class and going back through a lot of the things. And one of his terms is relax. Relax. Don't use those. The speed of your voice, the tone of your voice, we've already talked about vocabulary, can make or break situations. There's times when you need to just slow your talk down, maybe a light tone of voice, your vocabulary, different words that would help can really make a situation go the way that you want it to. After having done some of this for quite a while, I was at Towson's Captain Engine one day, and the medic crew had gone out on a call on Kenilworth Avenue. We were out PTing, and a call come through for us to go to the same address. Pulled up, one police officer there come up to me and says, "Hey, we need some help. Don't have any other officers available. This is an emergency petition. The gentleman says he's going to fight. So we need more folks here." I said, can I have a second? And I got the perception of the eye roll of, oh, what's this guy going to try? But I went in, and there's a rather large gentleman sitting on the couch, naked from the waist down. So I got the EP portion rather quickly. And there was a coffee table similar to what you saw on the previous slide. And I sat down across from him. The coffee table was in between us. And I talked to him. I got his name. Let's say it's Jim. Jim, what's going on? And a slow, soft tone of voice, and just talked. I'm not going. There's nothing wrong with me. And I gave him a little empathy, not sympathy, empathy. Empathy is trying to look and see things through their eyes. Would I want to get put in cuffs and taken to a hospital, put in a room, and locked into a room for 72 hours? Nope, I wouldn't. So I talked to him. It took a couple of minutes, but I finally found the one thing that worked for him, because I didn't feel like getting in a tussle. So I asked him, look, so you go down to the hospital, you talk to the doc. He says you're going to be all right. Everything's okay. You come on back and you prove your family wrong. And he thought for a minute, and that was the key. That worked for him. And you have to find those things that work for different individuals to get them on your side. You're trying to build rapport with folks. And yeah, you don't have much time compared to like those. That was the exercise with the special forces folks. Build rapport with people, because I'm coming into your village and I want to know what's going on in your village. I'm your buddy, I'm your pal. And that's what I was with this gentleman. I'm your buddy, I'm your pal. My main objective is I'm going home at the end of my shift. And that worked for him. And the gentleman looked at me, he says, can I ask a favor though? And I thought, oh no, where are we going with this? I'm awful thirsty. Can I get something to drink? And before I could say a word, one of the people on the medic unit said, "Nope, can't have anything by mouth. You're going to the hospital." I looked at him with a death threat in my eyes, and I'm thinking, he's going for a checkup from the neck up. He's not going in for anesthesia. Is that right, Doc? And there was no need for that. And even if he was going in for something that they didn't want him to drink anything, that's the hospital's problem. That's not mine right now. He's about to get up and walk out the door and lay on the stretcher for me. Right? So think through things a little bit. Right? Speed of your voice, tone of your voice, your vocabulary. Okay. So we're in a constant state of communication. Our moods, attitudes, intentions, they all leak out. Ours do, and your patients and bystanders do it well. So again, keeping your head on a swivel, watching the other folks in the room, and watching your own posture, your stance, your gestures, the words that you use. All those things can make or break a situation. I'm going to share something else. A couple of months ago, well, February, I was doing the ALS Con Ed up at Stevenson for Baltimore County. And it was one of the last classes, and one of the paramedics in the room gave me a story. She was working in the Dundalk area. I forget whether it was 15 or 6. And they get a call to the middle school, Dundalk Middle School. Forget what the injury was, injured child. And they get this kid in the back of the medic unit. And the paramedic tells me, I saw a bulge in his pants. And thank God. She asked the kid, what is that? She could have just, oh, I'm not going to ask. I'm just blinders on. But she asked, what's that in your pants? Oh, that's my BB gun. Well, red lights went off in her head. And she took out a red bag and she told the youngster, look, the hospital that we're going to has a metal detector. And they wand everybody going in. So, and she evidently did a very good job with her voice. Why don't you take the BB gun and put it in the bag, and we'll handle this way. That way, when you get there, you're not having that to deal with. How about we do it that way? And the kid took out a 9mm and put it in that bag. Now, she could have just ignored it. Not my problem. And let him go in there. And what could have potentially happened? In that hospital, when that officer was there wanding him and found that gun, there could have been a tussle and there could have been a boatload of rounds going off in that ED. Or she would have screamed and hollered to the driver, gun, and tried to jump out of the unit, could have scared the kid, and he could have started to cap off rounds. And as she's telling me this, there's all kind of things going through my head of what could she have done? And you know what? In her position at that period of time, she did what worked for her. And she got out of trouble. And if there is one person that I think deserves a commendation, it's that young lady. And I don't know, Doc, you have a lot of pull. And to me, the young lady deserves a pat on the back in some way, shape, or form, because she avoided a catastrophe. And God love her. So, moving on. So, posture. Right? What's wrong with this picture? Right? Standing there with your hands on your hips. It looks like he has a big red S on his shirt, doesn't it? And look at the attitude of the person sitting in a chair, an AC/DC shirt on, a Coors in his hand and a JD bottle sitting in his pink chair, of course. So, I mean, they're staring each other down. What do you? This guy's legs are spread. I'm not going to go any further about things that can happen. How often have we seen that? How often have we seen it? Maybe done it. Hey, yeah, I'm imperfect. You're listening to the guy that walked into the Sheraton in Towson years ago for, let me see, it was the third time in one evening for their automatic alarm within 2 hours. And the third time that I walked through the door, my helmet went flying across the floor and I announced this SHIT is going to stop, and it's going to stop now. And there were a lot of eyes on me and I failed, right? We didn't go back. They didn't want that crazy captain back, but yeah, not the best picture. And we're not perfect all the time. Don't expect it to be. The other thing, whether it's your personal life or your life at work, if you think something's not right, it probably isn't. If you're getting that gut feeling, listen to what your gut is telling you. Your conscious mind just hasn't figured it out yet. It might be a sound, it might be a smell. Your subconscious is picking something up. If you're walking down the street, going to that restaurant in Baltimore City, and you wind up coming up on an alleyway and you're getting a bad gut feeling in your stomach, cross to the other side of the street. Do something. Just don't pass by that alleyway. Listen to what your gut is telling you. It's been shown that listening to your gut will keep you out of trouble. So I listened to my gut one night, captain on engine one again, 2 o'clock in the morning, went to a run out Charles Street Avenue, car flipped over, 2 o'clock in the morning, and pulled a couple people out of the car. The one, and this was when we were still transporting to shock trauma for mechanism. The one guy was in the back, put in the back of medic one, and he was a bit too froggy. And I asked one of the officers that was on the scene, could you do me a favor? Something's not right with this guy. Could you do me a favor and just do a quick search on him? And that's what he come up with. The guy had a .22 single shot Derringer stuffed down his pants. And at any point in time, if I wouldn't have acted upon my gut feeling, they could have been going down to shock trauma and he could have popped a cap in the back of that paramedic's head. Listen to your gut. Right? Listen to your gut. Moving on. How many of you all lock your doors on your units? Whether it be on a scene or especially at the hospital? As you can see, this is 325 on Slade Avenue. I think it's been a couple of years now. They were upstairs treating a patient and somebody knocked on the door of the apartment that they were in. Hello? Somebody's downstairs in the back of your ambulance wreaking havoc. And they come down, and this gentleman on the ground was in the back of the medic unit tearing it up. Right? So maybe think about locking the unit up, and especially when you're at the hospital. Lock the things up. Lock them up. Right? All right. So I'm going to play a bit of a videotape. Please be aware that there is some really strong language in this. All right? Some very strong language. Now, just think of, in this instance, you get a call, because this is a bus, you get a call for, let's say the driver's injured on a bus, and you come rolling down the street. Right? So let's see what happens.
This nigga out here banging at the police on Dundalk Avenue. They just made us get off the motherfucking bus, yo. He banging at the police. Dundalk Avenue, juicy with these niggas. They thugging it. Got one hit, bus driver hit. God dang, yo. Oh my God. This shit getting real. This shit getting real. This shit is real, G. This shit is real. God, oh my God. This shit is real.
Okay, so that stuff's real. So you're the medic unit. You get dispatched. How many times do you get called out, and what you arrive on the scene to is something totally different than what you were dispatched for? Happens quite frequently. So you get a call for an injured bus driver, and you come down the street, and lo and behold, as you're coming down Dundalk Avenue, you catch a couple of rounds that come through the windshield of your medic unit from this knucklehead shooting out of the front of the bus. What are you going to do? All right, think to yourself, what am I going to do as I'm approaching that scene? There's a couple of cop cars down there I can see. So the scene's secure, right? That scene is anything but secure. Just because the police are there does not mean that it is secure. So again, having your head on a swivel of what can potentially happen. But wait a minute. That kind of stuff doesn't happen in Baltimore County, does it? Anybody heard of the Palczynski incident? A barricade situation that was one of the longer ones in the country that happened in Dundalk. Why do so many things happen in Dundalk? And it went on between the homicides and the barricade situation, all lasted for a little over a week. The barricade alone lasted for 5 days. So yes, things happen in Baltimore County. But you come down the street, where are you going to go? Can I hit a side street and get out of the line of fire? Should I stop and bail out of the ambulance? What do I have available to me for cover and concealment? All right, so let's talk about cover and concealment for a little bit. All right, outside, you've got some options, right? As you see here, trees. Folks, it's got to be the right size tree, right? Richard Brooks on the left, Yogi on the right. Pick the right size tree that's going to provide cover for you. Right? They'll stop a rather large size round. Right? So trees, vehicles. Right? If the only thing I have that I can get behind is my unit, great. Where on my unit do I want to be? Motor block and the wheels. Motor block and wheels will stop up to a 357 Magnum. Fairly sizable handgun round. You saw the one person alongside the van when the knucklehead come out of the bus and started shooting, and he went to the van. There was the lady that was there, and she took off and got away as quickly as possible. The other guy was lying there alongside the van. He was lying, good for him, he was lying alongside the wheels. Bad thing was that's where the knucklehead went. So that becomes problematic. But motor block and wheels when you're outside by a vehicle. Now, this picture, the way it was set up, the camera angle is taken from like the third floor balcony of an apartment. So now Brian Smith thinks that he's covered. He's down alongside the motor blocking wheels. Well, yes, he is, if the person is at ground level. But if the shooter has high ground on you, you need to be aware that you need to tuck in a lot tighter. Right? Tuck in a lot tighter. So there's fire hydrants. A 30-06 will barely mar the paint on a fire hydrant, but it doesn't provide very much in the way of mass. Right? You can get hit in an arm or a leg, but it gives you the time to make an assessment of where can I move next. Fire hydrants are good. It might, if the only thing you have to react to get down is a curb, that's it. Make an assessment, move to something larger that would provide you more protection. Inside of buildings, homes, apartments, there is little to nothing that is going to stop a bullet. Little to nothing. Excuse me. Drywall. The only thing, let's say by an apartment doorway, would be the buildup of wood or now metal studs that holds that entry door in place. That's about it. The drywall and whatnot is not going to provide you anything in the way of protection. In fact, a few years back, there was a suicide over in Pikesville, and the gentleman sadly put a shotgun in his mouth, pulled the trigger. 32 caliber pellets went through his head, through the drywall in his apartment, through the drywall in the apartment next door, and struck the next door neighbor in the face. Rounds have a good bit of energy. In fact, the effective range for some rounds is close to a mile. If you've heard military snipers taking shots a mile out. So someone with a hunting rifle, that round, if they so choose to use a hunting rifle to start trouble, that round can go a long, long distance. So a lot of people say, well, get us some body armor. Some units have body armor, right? Supervisors' vehicles have, I believe it's 2 sets. The air units, I did not know this until yesterday, the air units have additional sets of body armor. Sort 50 in Baltimore County has a number of sets of body armor. Some of the volunteer units have their own sets of body armor. There's limitations to body armor, okay? Like it says, it does not make you Superman. A lot of people put this stuff on and think that they can't be taken down, right? I told you about Jason Snyder early on. Told you about no guarantees. And it goes with the issue of body armor, right? In 1992, after the riots in LA, I had the opportunity to go out, spend a week with LA City Fire Department. What worked, what didn't work during the riots. The first day there, we were sent to Station 33 in South Central LA. And as we met the captain, just past the shake of hands, the captain, Captain Shanley, said, let's get you some body armor. What I did not know going in, I had heard that a couple of their medic units had body armor. What I did not know was that every single fire truck, battalion chief's vehicle, ambulance, every riding position on those apparatus have body armor assigned to every single riding position. This was in 1992. And it didn't happen because of the riots. It happened years earlier because of the gang problems that they had. The front of the engine that you see here, that captain at that front door is wearing body armor. All of these firefighters are wearing body armor underneath of their turnout gear. That's sad. And they're going in and fighting fire with an additional layer on that is going to tax them. But it's a piece of equipment that hopefully gets them home at the end of their shift. So more and more, body armor is becoming a tool that is used within fire and rescue. It's not new. In the 80s, Second Chance Body Armor started marketing to fire and EMS. So it's not new. It's a little new to our area, but I've known paramedics in Baltimore County going back years that got their, one was at Station 18 that got their own body armor and wore it every shift. All right. Yeah, it's not bulletproof. And when you hear the news, I cringe every time I listen to the news and you hear a reporter saying, wow, they were wearing a bulletproof vest. It is not bulletproof. Rounds go through body armor, right? Rounds go through body armor. It is designed to defeat small caliber handgun rounds. It is not designed to stop rifle rounds. The armor that is used, like by the military, SWAT teams and whatnot, have specialized hard plates in them to stop rifle rounds. Right? Our vests will also not stop knives. Right? So there's limitations to body armor. Don't feel that you're invincible if you have to put that piece on. Right? Vests to stop rifle rounds have hard plates. Ours don't. Right? And they also don't stop this stuff. Right? The biological weapons, the hand grenades, the nukes, flamethrowers, missiles from destroyers don't help with that stuff either. I figured I'd just point that out. All right, and if you do get hit, right, you will get a boo-boo. Right? You will get a boo-boo because when a round impacts the armor, it's a weave. It's a fabric that is weaved that it will dissipate the energy of the round over the entire vest. So you're going to get some bruising. Maybe I think sometimes they've talked about fractured ribs on some folks, but you're going to be alive. It's better than being shot. It's better than the alternative. Right? So when to wear it? Shootings, stabbings, assaults. I know with Pikesville, the policy is that shooting, stabbings, assaults, you've got the opportunity to put the vest on. Active shooter situations, vest 325 also carries helmets as well. SWAT standbys, EOD incidents, the civil disturbances, yep, mass demonstrations, wear them then. And any time that you feel more comfortable in wearing armor, right? Nothing says that you can't. Also, I don't have it in these set of slides, but please just run over the Signal 13 policy. Understand what the Signal 13 policy gives you, what it doesn't give you. You've got a large number of folks coming to you, right? And when you press that button, and you know you holler Signal 13, release the button, let dispatch get back to you, acknowledge it, and then start providing some information if you can. We were just shot at. Both of us are okay right now. The assailant is wearing such and such, and he is, I'll stick with it, he's running up Dundalk Avenue. But give them as much information as possible. Right? And that way the other units can get the information coming in. If you're on the battalion chief's car, if you're on the engine company and you're dispatched to a Signal 13, you've got decisions to make of whether or not you're going directly into the scene or waiting for police to tell you that the scene is secure. Again, just like you saw in that video, it's not that the police are there. Is it secure yet? Is it secure yet? Just them being there does not make it safe. So are we going in, or are we waiting until police have it secured? 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to wait until police advise it's secure. Please make sure, and this goes back to your units being locked. If you're carrying armor on your unit, make sure your unit stays locked. That stuff, as you see, is worth more on the street than any narcotics, whether it be fentanyl or anything else, and it's worth more than Narcan. That is a high dollar item to be able to grab some body armor. You see there also, Aurora, Colorado, when Holmes went into that theater and started shooting the place up, he was wearing body armor. He had access to body armor. So please make sure that you keep this stuff secured. All right. So we talked about, the incidents of folks with weapons. One thing that was astounding to me, and I mentioned about early on with the Derringer and the incident where I asked a police officer to get up and search this guy. What I'm hearing now from this last ALS Con Ed, some of the paramedics were telling me that the police are now very restricted in who they can search. So even if you on a medic unit have some issues and you ask for that person to be searched, what I'm hearing, now hopefully it was just misinterpretation, but what I'm hearing is that, in fact, the police are now very limited, and they may necessarily not be able to search someone just because you ask. All right. So be aware of that and come up with something more than just, hey, can you search this guy? Give them a reason. Demeanor, bulge, whatever you can come up with, give them reasons why they should be searched. And understand too, in some reality, you have more of an ability to search someone than what a cop does. Because at least years ago, we did a primary search or a primary assessment and a secondary assessment, right? Looking for lumps, bumps, bruises, and deformities. I'm going down arms. I'm going around waistbands. I'm checking that pelvis to make sure it's not fractured femurs, all those kind of things, and checking it twice. Yeah, I'm looking for that stuff. I'm also looking for something that can hurt me. What you don't want is for that person to get in the back of that medic unit and you be that Kansas City firefighter paramedic that winds up getting stabbed. And the number of times recently that I'm hearing, and you can see some of these things if you search the internet, you can see some of the major incidents that occur. The number of stabbings in the back of medic units is going way up. But also understand that the things that you do hear about on the news media, number one, they get half of them wrong. And number two, that's a very small portion. How many of you, think about it, how many of you heard about that incident in Dundalk with the kid? Probably not many. Still Baltimore County, but it was maybe a different shift, different side of the county. There's things that go on a routine basis that don't hit the news that we all don't hear about. But what you don't want is to have that person all of a sudden get into the ED and wind up having some issues. So these numbers, another study, 62% of pre-hospital personnel find weapons. 62%. But there's a number of folks, just north of 10%, that would not report that they found weapons. Now, who does that harm? It possibly harms the folks in the ED. It possibly harms your coworkers later on if they've got to pick this person up again. Right? So make the reports. What you don't want is for that person to get in the hospital and come back with films like this, right? This person, don't know whether they came in via ambulance. Let's say they just walked in, but they went through triage, went through getting into a room, went down to radiology, and lo and behold, it comes back, and there is a handgun in their pocket. Rude awakening. I just found this just this week. It is called a switch gun. Not much bigger than the palm of your hand. It's about a 5-shot revolver. And I had never seen this prior to this week. And this is the portion of the class that I love, because I love showing some of these weapons. But I hadn't seen this. I'm sure most of you haven't seen anything like this. But it's concealable in someone's pocket. Very concealable in someone's pocket. What's this? You see people, walking down the street. If you knew me, you saw me, you'd see the same thing. I had one person in a class, when I asked that question, what is it? Oh, ballpoint pen. No, it's not. No, it's not. That is a knife, and knives scare the daylights out of me. I hate knives. I would rather deal with someone that has a handgun that I can see than a knife that I can potentially miss. And knives, when you palm them, you do not see them. You can have something in the palm of your hand. That knife that he had in his pocket will fit in the palm of this person's hand, and you will not see it until it's too late. Right? And having this in your hand like that, and all of a sudden, boom, this thing is out. And you can cause a lot of damage to someone with a knife like this. Okay? So be very afraid of knives. Another one that I had heard about just recently. How many of you knew that there are ceramic razor blades? Right? Ceramic razor blades. You tape that to the back of a license, or the back of, in this case, a Visa debit card. And please don't try this. It will go through an airport metal detector because the blade is ceramic. But it's only a small blade. Right? Do you realize that this is the blade that brought planes down on 9/11? Box cutters. Simple little box cutter blades. That's what brought planes down on 9/11. Don't discount the potential. And you don't see very much of that blade, yet that will do a lot of damage. You hit the right place, can you bleed somebody out? Absolutely. Where do people slash for if they've got a knife in their hand? They're slashing for your face, for your throat. What lies close to the surface of the skin? Yep. So you can bleed out in a matter of seconds to minutes. Don't discount the things. And again, metal detectors, they're nice, right? They're good. But there's limitations with every piece of technology. Same thing here, right? A piece of string, a nut from a bolt and nut, right? What's the big deal? No, in that context, there is none. And if I've got a bag and I'm, going through an airport metal detector, yeah, no big deal, right? The person at TSA may open the bag up, look at that, and okay. If they've seen some of these things, they can stop you, because you know what? You can put this thing together, slip the parachute cord through the nut, and you start swinging that, and you start connecting with people's heads, again, going to do a lot of damage, and the technology will fail. Cricket. This is an expended CO2 cartridge. You fill it up with a little bit of black powder, a small piece of fuse device, wrap some nails around it, and when you light that and toss it into a room and it hits the black powder, all that metal on that CO2 canister, as well as the nails, now becomes shrapnel. It is a small self-made hand grenade. And there's so many others. You can take that an M80 firecracker, dip it in glue and dip it in BBs. It's the same thing. On vehicles, right? Where people hide weapons on vehicles. The guy that I had, it was down alongside of his right thigh in the car. The person that had this car, it was below a speaker grill, right? On an old BMW, semi-automatic handgun. If the airbag doesn't go off in a motor vehicle crash, why? Not all the time, but there's enough times that people have taken the airbag out and secreted a handgun right in front of them. All that they knew is to pull the cover off, easy access to a small caliber handgun. Folks, that's a sawed-off shotgun. Not what you see in the movies. This is not much bigger than the palm of your hand. It'll probably break your wrist when you pull the trigger, but it's going to produce a lot of damage downrange. Right? So I thank you for your attentiveness. I wish the technology would have worked better on my end. We were trying for a half an hour. That way I could see some of the comments and whatnot. Summary: identify potential threats, avoid them if possible. Watch your body language, watch your language itself. Allow law enforcement to secure those scenes when you can do that, and make sure it's secure, not just that they're there. And there's no guarantees to any of this, right? I greatly appreciate everybody stopping by tonight. Hope it helps a little bit. I enjoy doing these. Doc, anybody have any questions or anything? You can.
Well, thank you for your presentation. It's very important, scene safety. I hear at every meeting at the volunteer station I'm at about keeping your head on a swivel, and it's true. And scene safety is true. And I've been riding an ambulance for several decades. And one of the other things I still remember from Don Mackey also is never trust anyone. It's just you and your partner against the world.
Yep. Absolutely.
Can't tell you how many times I've walked in where you see a shotgun leaning in the corner in the living room, and it's like, oh. And patients just,
absolutely.
There it is, but here we are back in the sticks, and it's just there because it's there, but still. But I've also been on a call where my partner leaped across the bed and grabbed a handgun out of the patient's, or grabbed the arm with a handgun in it, and I've seen that too. You never know when it's going to happen.
Yep. And in instances, if you see something your partner doesn't see, if you're riding with somebody on a routine basis, come up with some type of a code word. You know, if the code word is what we use for the alternative for Signal 13, the Squad 99, great. Call your partner by the wrong name. Of course, you know, if he stands there and looks at you and crosses his eyes, that's problematic. But come up with something that both of you know we need to leave. We need to leave now. It could be something as simple as
that day was immediate. It was gun.
Yeah, gun may not be the right thing, but
he was there for my time he announced it.
All right,
it's good to have a partner who was a former Marine.
Oh yeah, that helps. Anything else?
No. Open up for questions, please. Scary topic, but it's become more and more real.
Yep. Well,
2 years ago, I had to take a knife off someone. I'm like, there you go.
All right. Thanks everyone again.
Thank Thank you, everyone. If you would like your continuing ed through MIMS, the link is in the chat. Please fill it out. Once we shut down, we can't take it after the fact at this point. So now is the time to sign if you would like some. I believe this will be under local option. Thank you, Dennis.
Certainly. Trying to bring up the link for everything.
And, yeah, you can sign up for continuing ed too if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right, Doc. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Sorry we had the issue with the couldn't get the issue with the PowerPoint squared away, but we'll make it happen next time. All righty. Take care, Doc.
Hey, Denny. Hey,
Yes.
Denny, Bill Kelly.
Hey, sir. How are you?
How you, brother? Good, man. Hey, just nice job.
Thank you.